The following program may contain strong language and mature content. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello. Welcome to She is Shenomenal. I am your host, Tasha Champion, the Shenomenal Coach of Champion Empowerment. Always teaching you to love the champion you are. You guys should have seen me like right before I was grooving. I love the intro that Pyro Media Network did for this show. I love the music. So I'm always like grooving right before the camera starts. I gotta have y'all look at me dance one day. Anyway, it is Wednesday. I'm so happy to be back. I have such an incredible show for you guys today. We are continuing the talk with Jireh Shoe, where we're talking about behaviors that hide in the church, thrive in the church. But before that, there's something that I do want to talk to y'all about. I keep seeing like all of these Facebook messages, no fake friends, tired of fake people, I don't want fake people around me, fake people need to go. This is what I want to let you know though. It's a reason why you keep drawing fake people to you. If you keep noticing fake people, you got to check in with yourself and ask, why do I keep noticing them? Why do they keep being in around me or in my circle? Because remember, like attracts like. So if you keep noticing all the fake behaviors in your circle, all the fake behaviors around you, all the fake people, it's probably time to do some inner work to understand why that energy keeps coming to you. What is it in you that keeps attracting all of these fake people? Because I will tell you, I've lived that life, and then I've lived the life of attracting people that are like me. So I am surrounded by people who are of love, who are of respect, who are of fun, who laugh, who support one another. Like if that's the sisterhood that you want to have around you, it's really time that you self-assess why you don't have that around you. It's some incredible women out there, so make sure you get your circle that's of love, support, friendship, class. Make sure it's a class. All right, I'm going to go ahead and check in with our Shenomenal News of the week. And the first thing I want to talk about is get your mammograms. I'm going to tell you that every single week because it's so important for women over 40, even younger now sometimes, to make sure you are getting your mammograms. And to encourage you, I am doing the Mammo Challenge. It's really simple. Get your mammogram, register for the challenge. You can register for a grand prize, which will be announced at the second annual Shenomenal Women's Brunch. This is where you have got to be in Fontana, California. We are going to have such an incredible time at our brunch for sure. So get your tickets today because we're going to talk about what does it mean to thrive when you've been given a less than 1% chance at life and of success. What does it mean to live after you've experienced so much loss, maybe even death? We want to awaken and empower you. So make sure you get your ticket to the brunch, okay? And now one of my favorite parts is to announce our Shenomenal Spotlight of the Week. All right, our Phenomenal Spotlight of the Week. I'm a little biased because she is my sweet little cousin, but L'Oreal Klein, this lady is blazing trails for herself. She just recently graduated with her MBA at Marymount California University. It is an exclusive private school in the Palos Verdes area of Los Angeles County, beautiful campus. She is a behavioral therapist, but L'Oreal is truly making a way through life, through obstacles. Soon as she started college, her mother suddenly passed away, and she kept trucking and kept going and just really pushed herself to the next level. Because obstacles are either going to push you up or they're going to push you down, but you have to make that choice. But she is truly a beautiful representation of Black girl magic, Black girl excellence. And I am so honored and so proud of my little cousin, L'Oreal Klein, the newest member to our Masters of Business, her MBA. That's what I'll say, her MBA. But she's incredible. So congratulations, L'Oreal. You are the Shenomenal Spotlight of the Week. You are a Shenomenal woman. I love you to pieces. Keep making a difference in your life. All right, you guys, we're going to take a quick break because when we come back, we are going to talk to Jireh Shoe. If you were with us last week, we were talking about behaviors that hide in the church, thrive in a church. And she was sharing the abuse that she suffered from a narcissistic pastor. And we are going to dive deeper into what caused that, what was happening in her home life. What were the people that were around her doing and saying? And how was this pastor able to manipulate her vulnerability to then use that against her? But we got to dive deep because we talked about some heavy stuff last week, but we want to unpack even more of it because our goal is really to save the girls that are in church. And because if you see something and you're not speaking on it, you're allowing the bad behaviors to thrive. So we'll be right back with Jireh Shoe. We are back, and I want to bring in Jireh Shoe so we can get this conversation started. Hello, Jireh.
Hello. Hi, everyone.
Hey, I'm so glad that you are back. We had a fantastic time, even just talking about a subject that's so heavy, but I honor you for bringing such awareness to a sensitive topic, but a conversation that we really get to have. because we need people to know what's going on, because no one knew with you for a very long time. And now you are using your experience to bring light, to make sure that people are aware of what's happening, and to really save younger girls. And that's what we want to talk about today and just really, really unpack this. So thank you again for coming back so that we can talk about it.
Of course, I'm excited. Thank you.
Yeah. So just to give a little bit of recap, Jireh was attending a church from childhood, and the pastor's nephew started the abuse, and then it ended up elevating to the pastor himself. So we talked about that last week, but what I really want to focus in on right now is how they were able to basically penetrate the gaps within your family and use that to then manipulate your vulnerability.
Ooh, that's good. Yeah. I definitely would say that that's exactly what happened. How he was able to do that, well, it starts in the home, obviously, for me, my mom is a great mom, and I want to start by prefacing this with, before I begin anything, I want to preface it by saying, my mom is a great mom. My mom would give her life for her kids. She kept our grades up. She kept us in church. She made sure that we knew who God was. We didn't want for anything financially, and she would protect her kids. The problem comes in when you don't have that kind of relationship, mother and daughter, to be able to speak and talk.
Mhm.
My mom went through a lot as a kid. She really didn't have a childhood. She had to grow up very, very fast. She was helping raise her siblings at 4 years old. Her mom was there as well. But, it was an absentee father household. He would be here one day, gone the next. And so they had to grow up very fast. And so for my mom, she had to not be led by her emotions a lot. And I do believe that that caused her to be a very emotionally unavailable. And she didn't have a lot of time for small talk and she was great with kids. She was great as a mom. But as far as being able to connect with a teenage daughter on that level, the emotional availability wasn't necessarily present, right?
Mhm.
And that comes from probably not healing certain wounds in her own life. And
Right.
so for her, she just kept trucking because that's what happens a lot of times with African American mothers. They feel like they have to carry the weight of the world on their shoulders. They're constantly being judged, constantly being torn down by the outside world, and they don't have the time to sit and just deal with their emotions because
Right.
the world doesn't allot that. So, with that being said, I'm going to preface all of this by saying that's what was going on in my household was she wasn't necessarily connecting with her emotions because she was trying to raise 4 kids. My father was in the home, but he worked all the time. A
Yeah.
great dad. We took family vacations and stuff together, but you know, the same that could be said for my mom can be said for my father.
Right.
He went through his own childhood abuse and stuff, and so he didn't want to bleed out on his kids, so he didn't know how to handle certain things, so he'd work a lot, and so that would leave the kids exposed.
I want to pause for a second because there are a lot of parents that are out there, single parents, two-parent homes, where you might feel like you are failing because you are working or you are doing this, you're doing that, you're making sure the kids have this, you're making sure they're at school on time, their grades are up. And then you realize that something else may be lacking. But I want you to know it doesn't make you a bad parent. We always do the best we can, and we can't change anything until we learn what's
Yes.
missing so that we can learn how to add it in. So I just want to make sure that any parent who's listening understands that you're not a bad parent just because something might be missing. You
Yeah.
might not have ever been exposed to it, but go ahead.
That's exactly, I love that you said that because I do feel like sometimes, especially dealing with this situation, some people can feel like maybe they're feeling responsible or attacked. And to me, it's not necessarily about being responsible for someone else's actions, right? The action should be on that pastor. Those are his actions. That's where the responsibility lies, not on just my parents, not on any of that. It's on him. No one made him do what he did, but he did see a gap. And that gap was the emotional connection and the conversation that was lacking between my mother and I and my father and I. And so he did take advantage of that. And instead of him coming in to help counsel and to show my mom how to connect with her daughter or show me how to connect with my mom and vice versa for my father, he was taking advantage of those gaps. and he was manipulating the system. And so he was coming to me, coddling that hurt and that pain and cultivating it, but utilizing it to make me glean from him more and make me find that love through him and yearn for that love and acceptance through him, instead of telling me or throwing me back towards my parents and saying, hey, we're going to pray about it. Hey, I believe God is going to fix this. Hey, let's do some family counseling. You know, let's nip it in the bud. Let's start addressing these issues and figure out what's missing. Or let me refer you out to a licensed therapist or counselor if I'm not qualified because I haven't taken courses. I'm just a pastor. Let me figure that out and help
Do the
you guys
pastor's
figure
job
out.
and help the family, not help yourself to the family.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I feel like because that was going on, there were conversations I wasn't allowed to have with my mom. You know, there were times where I would come and I would present to her a situation, and to her it would just sound like, oh, that's just drama, or that's just this, or that's just that. But what she didn't realize was that was dismissing me.
Right.
And that was actually creating an issue for me. I wouldn't feel safe. I wouldn't feel comfortable coming to her because I would feel like she just thinks I'm this or she just thinks I'm that. And that was developing, that allowed the enemy to start talking to me and playing on those emotions and making me feel rejected and abandoned. And then, you know, that just continued. That continued for years.
So here you have this family dynamic. You guys were like, you were still a close-knit family.
Oh, yeah.
But in any family, there can be, you know, sometimes there could be a little bit of drama. There might be a little bit of disconnection. There might be a little bit of discord. So what happened? You were saying like he was using those moments to then cultivate what should have been a pastor-like relationship, but he then used it to cultivate a narcissistic relationship with you, where it was like, okay, I'm going to show her that I am who she needs. I am the one she needs to turn to. I. And then he now is taking that to manipulate everything in your life, down to insulting you about posting, about going to a concert, just little things like that. He was attacking you just as a young girl. So talk about that a little bit, because a lot of times we think somebody is saying something to us that is for our benefit, but a lot of times they're saying something because they really are poking at us, they're digging at us, they want to break our self-esteem, they want to break our self-awareness, and that's what was happening to you. So talk about that a little bit.
Oh, wow. There was a lot of manipulation. He was playing the both sides trick all across the board. I'll give you 3 examples. One example, I was a part of the dance ministry, and the dance leader at that time was, we were having some issues internally. We were having issues because he was going to leaders meetings, even though I wasn't a leader at that time, but I was in the church, and he would always use me to be in the front or the forefront of the church dancing. And he would basically pimp me out for my gift and anointing, but then behind closed doors denounce me and belittle me. With that being said, he was going into his leaders meetings that he would have every month. And he would mention me. He would mention me at random. I had no clue this was going on this whole time. I was still an active member in the church. He was mentioning my name and telling all the leaders, she's not spiritual. She doesn't think. She doesn't even hear from God. So he was telling that to the leaders, but then coming behind closed doors and telling me that the leaders were jealous of me. And so it was causing friction and division in the church. And we didn't know.
Of course it was, because he was using this time to build your silence. So because now these people are treating you like crap, you know not to go to them and say, hey, I'm feeling a certain way, or the pastor is doing this, or he's doing that. So he made sure to create division in your life so that you didn't have someone to go to.
And he was... Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish that before I ask the question. Go ahead and finish that.
I was just gonna say the second example was like you were referring to, as far as the clothes. You know, I went to a Rihanna concert. He got upset, not because I went to the Rihanna concert and not because of what I wore, but because I posted it. And so here you have this man that is being whatever and blending in like a chameleon wherever he feels like he can gain the approval of these individuals. But at the same time, sowing discord and confusion, because behind closed doors, he's telling me, you're fine, wear what you want to wear, this and that. But then he's going to other people, did you see that? I can't believe I sat her down because that's not biblical. That's not Christian. But then behind closed doors, he's also showing me his LL Cool J albums. So it's like, so he's
Popular music.
right. I'm like, it was some song with sticking a spoon in cereal. I don't know. I just remember it was sexual, and I just remember like, okay, well, if this is the music you listen to, okay, you don't have an issue. Like you would like you're not being, but then in that's what he was doing behind closed doors with me. But then in the public's eye, he was saying something different. He was always playing both sides of the fence. I believe he did the same thing with my mom at one point with that Rihanna concert. He had a conversation with, I believe, my mom, and was on her side in regards to, oh yeah, she shouldn't have worn that and she shouldn't have done this. But then he's telling me it's fine. And then he even went further to say that there were two other leaders who were single women who got divorced after they got to the church and were sitting up under him. And he was saying that they go to Vegas all the time and they wear skimpy outfits and this and that. They just don't post it online. So it's like, you're teaching me how to live a double life. Like, I don't, what do we do?
Right, that part. So he's using all of this discord to really silence you, to break you down.
Mm-hmm.
I always say, like, the silence ends up speaking louder than the voice sometimes. So how did you handle all of this silence that is now filling you up? You don't know who to turn to. You don't have an open communication relationship with your mom. There's people in the church that you see as they could be jealous because that's what he's saying. There's discord, there's division. So what happened to Jireh? How were you handling all of this silence? You can't say anything. He's taught you how to not say anything. He knew you didn't say anything about his nephew's abuse. So just talk about that for a minute. What is that silence like where you're the only person that has to hold all of this?
Oh, it is stifling. It's detrimental.
Mhm.
I was very, very angry. I remember harboring unforgiveness for about 6 years.
Wow.
And I remember I would go forward, I would come back. I would go forward, I would come back. And last year on October 10th, on my birthday, I remember waking up and I looked up to God and I just remember saying, it feels like all of the hard work that I've done within these last 6 years. I never left the church, I never left you, even though I wanted to sometimes. I still didn't
Mhm.
understand everything. And it's just this long, long process. This long process of healing. It's a lot, a lot. It's like peeling layers off of an onion, and it's a big onion. And I just remember telling the Lord on my birthday, I said, I don't know why. I just feel so depressed. And he was talking to me and he said, well, what makes you feel that way? And I said, I just feel like my 20s were robbed from me because of all of that emotional, mental, sometimes physical damage. Like it just would affect me so heavily in so many ways.
Right.
And I remember telling God, I'm tired of this. And then he ended up shutting me down. I lost my job. I had an HR position. I'm in one now, but I had an HR position at the time I lost my job. I tried to apply for unemployment. I was approved, but they were 200,000 people behind. So I wasn't getting any income and I was really just dependent on God. And I
Right.
had to take my nails off. And it gets bad when I got to take my nails off. Everybody knows me for nails. Honey, if you put the go, I'm in a rough spot. It's rough. And
Yeah.
so I remember someone reached out to me, Rebecca Lawrence, my good friend, her and her husband, and they took me to Texas with them. They paid for everything. When we got to Texas, we met up with her cousin, Casey and Jeremy, and I ended up getting delivered at that house, just a small little house meeting. And it was just 4 people and me. It was 5 of us total. And they started prophesying and speaking God's word into me. And I was able to denounce verbally that spirit of rage, unforgiveness, and anger and hurt, and the soul tie between father and daughter. And
Wow.
at that point, that's when I felt that thing break. And I was able to start speaking. God started opening doors. He said I was going to tell my testimony without slander, and that's what I've been able to do. And He's just started opening doors. But for me, it was so hard to get to that point because imagine trying to Imagine this father figure for you. You don't connect with your father. You're not connecting with your mom at that time. Now things are different for me, but at that time it was not. And
Right.
I remember, imagine a godfather, imagine your goddad. And this is a man you've known for the last 12 years. He's known you since you're a little girl. He's paid your car note when you don't have a job. He's
Right.
paid for you to go halfway across the world with him. And so imagine out of nowhere this man just sexually assaults you and then is calling you a whore and is lying to people and telling them that you slept with 20 men in one night and over 50 men, because a narcissist has to take away the validity of your statement
Absolutely.
so that they can try to survive. And so how do you do that with a woman? The oldest trick in the book: call her a slut.
Yep.
And that's what he did. He told everybody I was a church slut. And the most hurtful part was that all of these people who had known me since I was 12 never brought a boy to the church, was only the only virgin in the church while all the leaders' kids were sleeping around. No one defended me. Everyone knew me personally and no one defended me. And that really hurt. And the part that really made it hard, that 6 years silence that you're referring to, the part that really made it hard was when Christians would come to me,
Mhm.
and when I would tell them what happened, and I would tell them, I'm trying to grasp for some sort of faith, and I'm
Right.
trying to have faith that God would fight this battle so that I can let go of this hurt. I can let go of this unforgiveness, because if
Mhm.
I can't trust God, I feel responsible to hold it. So as
Right.
I'm trying to stand on the promise God gave me as a Christian, because I'm an heir to the throne, and as an heir, I have a promise from God I get to stand on. He said, vengeance is mine, I shall repay. And Christians are telling me I'm wrong for standing on that, telling me, trying to manipulate the word by telling me you need to forgive, you need to let it go. How can I let it go if I don't trust that someone else is going to pick it up, and that's someone being God? And
Right.
if you're telling me I'm wrong for standing on the scripture that God is actually going to fight my battle, you're telling God he's wrong for telling it to me.
Mhm. Well, the thing
And
is,
so,
so many people, because I want to pause right there. I need people to really hear that, because we use the word forgiveness, we throw it around like it's a dollar that you can just get, from anywhere. And it's not. When people have this thing of like, well, you just say, I forgive you. The thought of forgiveness is great. The
yeah.
action of forgiveness is totally different. And when you tell somebody, oh, I forgive you, I hear it all the time. Oh, I forgive them. I forgive you. Do you really? Like, do you really? Because
Mm-hmm.
the work of forgiveness is not easy. That's why, and I'm so glad you said it took 6 years. You felt like you were taking steps forward. You felt like you were taking steps back. Then you have people saying, like, oh, you need to forgive, instead of acknowledging, well, wait a minute. Why hasn't she been able to fully forgive? Why is this still pressing on her? So
Mm-hmm.
again, not even acknowledging how you feel, but just saying, oh, well, girl, you need to forgive, while they're
Mm-hmm.
still going and praising God under this man's worship, as if all was okay when they knew what was going on. So I'm glad that
And
you really brought that up with forgiveness.
it's big. It's so big because that also goes hand in hand as far as how to have a better relationship with your daughters, how to help them protect themselves, how to build that connection. You have to validate them first. As a Christian, as a parent, anybody, it's just human decency. If someone is coming to you and stating, this is what happened to me,
Mm-hmm.
how dare you, out of your affiliation to that predator or to that abuser,
Right.
say that the victim is wrong for feeling how they feel because of what someone else has done to them. And then you're not even going to validate it. And then let's take it a step further. So parents need to be able to validate their daughters to build that close bond and connection. That's how they build trust with you, as if
Yes.
you validate them and you say, baby, I hear you. I get it. What happened? How do you feel? How are you doing?
Right.
Before
Even
I
if
try to do anything else.
even if you don't fully understand what somebody is experiencing, you cannot dismiss it as if it didn't happen. You can't dismiss it as if she should just be like, okay, well, it's not that big a deal. No, it is a big deal, because these are my feelings. This is what happened to me. And I need someone to be able to hear me so that
Yeah.
I don't feel alone, and I can learn how to now work through this and feel myself, feel the emotions that I feel, and know that I'm safe to express myself. You have
Yes.
multiple people taking away your voice, multiple people,
Multiple.
not just the pastor,
Censoring.
but the people in the church. Sometimes your family, when somebody wasn't listening to you, if every single time no one stood up for you, it pushed your voice further and further away from you.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's sad, even as a Christian, to take it away from just mothers and daughters and family. Like, even as a Christian, the Bible says Jesus is touched by their infirmities. How dare you want to minister to somebody? Number one, let's just address the conflict of interest.
Right.
As to the fact that you're still in affiliation with their predator, just be quiet. Let somebody else deal with that victim, because you're not going to be able to be unbiased. You're just not.
Right.
Because of the loyalty you have for that person. Whether you're benefiting emotionally, whether you're benefiting financially, you're not going to be able to properly hear that person and minister and to the need of that person, because of your affiliation and the loyalty that you're going to feel like you're going to violate with that particular individual.
Right.
So just be quiet and step out the way.
Exactly.
That's number one. Number two, don't ever try to minister to someone, quote unquote, right? Because we love to call ministry, but sometimes it's just not. Sometimes it's you spreading your opinion and pushing your agenda. But how dare you try to minister to somebody and you're not even validating the pain? You're not even trying to be touched by their infirmity. Like, we love to call ourselves like Christ, but no one wants to really be like Christ when it comes to taking a stand, even if that means we have to separate ourselves from that affiliation.
Exactly. And I think that is the bigger problem. When we remove when we remove religion out of that, it's still a big problem. And like I said in the previous episode, regardless of your religion, your relationship with God should stop you from doing certain things. It is my relationship with God that makes me not seek revenge on my husband. It is my relationship with God that makes me pause and say, hold on, before you just go off on that person. It's my relationship with God that says, listen to what this person is saying before you just go into your own assumptions. So see, when we remove religion out of all of that, what is your relationship with God in spirit to then know what to do? Whether you're going to validate this person or not, can you at least hear them with an open heart and open ears without your bias?
Yes. And without trying to discredit them or blame the victim.
Right. Well, a lot of people feel like, well, that's the pastor. Oh my God, he would never. I remember you saying last week, you thought this only happened in Catholic churches. And here it is. This is a Black Christian church, and this is happening. This is happening. It's a lot. It's just a lot to unpack. It's a lot to see that a person would use the little gaps in between family members, in between the relationships with parents, to then violate you and abuse you. So we're going to take a quick break, and then we will be right back. There's more to come with Jireh Shoe.
Jireh Media Network is a proactive network focused on providing innovative space for content creators and entrepreneurs. PMN is dedicated to giving its viewers a diverse entertainment experience while helping content creators elevate their production, engagement, and overall branding. To date, PMN has reached over 1 million viewers and listeners internationally, produced over 72 successful shows with high ratings and fanfare, and has housed over 135 content creators, brands, and businesses through entertainment and consulting services exclusive to Pyro Media. Pyro Media Network is a space that makes you feel at home. So if you or someone you know wants to make an impact, then contact PMN by visiting www.pyromedianetwork.com. and we will take your production to the next level.
Okay, so we are back. We're talking about how this pastor was able to weasel his way into the cracks when some of your family foundation broke, when he realized that, oh, wait a minute, she doesn't have a great communication relationship with her mom or her dad right now, so she's probably not going to say anything. And because my nephew assaulted her and she didn't say anything, then now her silence is probably golden to me. So now you're at a point where you are using your voice. You found your voice. You had, like you said, you peeled back the largest onion through all of the tears, all of the heartache, all of the hurt that you had experienced from people not believing you, from the church members turning against you, from even having to really talk to your parents about this. What was it like to find your voice and say, if nobody's going to stand up for Jireh, I'm going to stand up for Jireh? What was that like? How was it finding your voice?
Honestly, I don't even know how to describe it. I really don't. I don't know how to describe it. I can honestly just say liberating. It's so freeing. I feel like I didn't realize what I was doing. I thought that getting delivered from the unforgiveness was enough. Like I thought, wow, I finally did it. Like God finally did it for me.
Right.
When I spoke and I released those first 3 installments of my testimony, it was like the floodgates just busted open. I've always been a fighter by nature. Honey, come at me with some injustice, it's a wrap. Okay, I've always had it in me. It's just innate. I was born this way. I don't know. God just did it, and not everybody's like that. And I know not everybody's like that. But me, I do not care what your title is. I do not care. And going through the situation has made it amplified.
Of course, because now you found your voice from somebody else silencing it, and now you found your voice. So it's like, come at me if you want to, but you might want to be careful.
I stay ready. I sit pretty and I stay ready. Sit pretty, stay ready. Okay, let me tell you. So
Wow.
I'm
now you have to learn how to protect Jireh when no one else was protecting you. And it creates this sense of strength in you where it's almost like fight or flight all the time. You say something, I'm responding. You do something, I'm reacting. And I will tell you, over time, even that will start to ease and calm, and you'll use more of your words and your energy in the right path and the right way. But it is very hard when you feel like you're the only person that's standing up for you.
I can definitely, yes, it is very difficult. I think it was harder within those last 6 years. I've always been a very vocal person. I trusted my old pastor, and so I was able to submit at that time. And I allowed that censorship because I didn't realize it was censorship. I was being told biblically that that's what pleased the Lord, and I wanted to please God. But when I recognized that he was manipulating me and abusing me, that was probably the only person in my life that could have probably ever been like, hey, and I'd be like, now there's no one, so good luck. No, just kidding. I'm just kidding. I remain.
I understand, but I want to talk a little bit more because of the work that you're doing, the advocacy work that you are doing. But let's talk about those cracks. How has your family, the relationship with your mom, how have you mended that so that you can, because even, beyond your younger years, there are times where we just want our moms. I remember going through chemotherapy and I looked at my daughter and I'm like, I just need my mom. I'm 36 years old. And I'm like, no, I just need my mom. And so there are times where even as adults, adult women, we just want our moms. So how were you able to really come full circle and mend that relationship with your mom? And how does that help you now talk to other girls and their moms so that they can learn this relationship building early, before it gets chaotic and somebody can creep through the cracks to then manipulate?
To answer the question, I'm gonna give an explanation. We're still working on it. We're still working on it. We're still working on our communication. That's number one. Number two would be,
Mm-hmm.
I believe because I lacked that growing up for so many years, that's what made me good at helping others have a relationship with their daughters. That's what made me good at advocating for young women. I
Yeah.
heard a saying last week that said, if you want to find someone that loves hard, look for someone that was broken great.
Wow.
If you go through great pain, you will know great love.
Yes.
Usually, there's some people who go through hardships, and they just become wicked and they want to hurt others, hurt people, hurt people. I was
Right.
not like that. I was the type of person to where I experienced rejection and it just made me so incredibly loving. I
Mm.
love kids. I love people. Don't try me. But I love people. I love children. I will give my life. I'm so serious. They just put me over the youth dance, the babies dance ministry. I've got 4 or 5 year olds girl and 1 4 year old underneath me, and I'm just like mother hen. I love me some babies. I do.
Yeah.
I love me some babies. And then they put me over the 8 to 12 year olds for the young women's ministry. I love people. I love kids, but it's because I have this maternal instinct in me to love on people because I never want someone to be feeling the way I used to have to feel. And so that really shaped how I am. And then my aunts too, my mom was a loving mom, especially in my childhood years, but my aunts were like incredibly like constantly kissing me, constantly loving me. And so I think I also got that from them too. So I wasn't, just out here, oh,
Yeah.
but I would definitely say with my mom, we're definitely still working on it. I would have to say, just a few days ago, God was talking to me about the story of Joseph in the Bible, and he was sharing with me how, just to make it brief, after Joseph's father died, because he was helping his brothers, he was showing his brothers grace after they came and they found out it was Joseph. He had already been around his brothers for so long, and then their father passed, and then their brothers were fearful that Joseph was going to turn his back on them. And so I likened it unto my story because his brothers ended up trying to be sneaky and coming to Joseph and telling Joseph, oh,
Right.
dad told us, well, they sent someone to tell Joseph, oh, your father wanted you to forgive your brothers. That was his dying wish. And Joseph was like, if my dad wanted that, he would have told me. I was just, you know. And so Joseph just bawled. He just broke down crying. And he immediately, he wasn't crying because his father had passed. He already had 3 months to deal with that. He was crying because his brothers hadn't changed. After all the grace that he shown them, they hadn't changed, and that broke Joseph's
Sometimes
heart.
it doesn't matter how much grace and mercy you show them, they just
Man, they don't. And so he told them, Joseph's response, they fell at Joseph's feet, trying to be manipulative again. Oh, we're enslaved to you, we're this, we're that, just trying to manipulate. Joseph looked at them and said, am I God? I'm not God. What you
don't.
meant for evil, God turned around and worked it for my good and for the salvation of others. And so God keeps reminding me every time I want to fight with my family members, if they, question me, or, there might still be a small battle between them not wanting to take responsibility for not having that relationship with me within a certain time span while this stuff was going on. God silences me. He's trying to silence
You're
me.
working on it.
And
Yeah.
we're working on it. We're working it out. He's trying to silence me and remind me, like, hey, focus. This
Mhm.
happened because people need salvation. This happened because people need to be free. And as long as I stay focused on that, I
Yeah.
stop being so hard with people and their battles to accept.
Right. And
So,
there's also some space where you have to give your mom some grace because,
yes,
like you said, she had to grow up really quick. She had
yeah,
to raise her siblings. So she
yeah,
had to silence a lot of her emotions, maybe a lot of her compassion. So
yeah,
there is some grace that you get to give your mom. There's some grace that she
yeah,
gets to give you. And then you find that space of healing together where you're
yeah,
actually listening to one another in
yes,
communication versus I'm just going to tell you this and this is how you should feel. Like we have to acknowledge, hey, I'm telling you how I feel. I'm not telling you that this is what your intention was. You meant to do this, but this is how I feel. And we just sometimes need to pause and acknowledge, hold on, this is how this person feels. And so I like the fact that you are saying like, hey, we're still working on our relationship. If you're comfortable, can you just kind of share like what's something or what's a new way that you guys are working on your relationship, on that communication? Because it can help somebody out there who needs to build or rebuild that relationship with their mom. What are you doing to cultivate a new communication with your mom?
I had to stop trying to change their perspective on every little detail.
Ooh.
I did, because I wanted them to see clearly on every single piece, and it was like creating friction, because in the process of me trying to change their perspective so that they can see everything clearly, they were feeling attacked. Because what kind of parent wants to hear this news about their daughter? Not to mention, there are people from that church, number one, who sat through that meeting where he slandered my character and broke the law, and they were amening it. And in order for them not to take their responsibility in all of that, they were blaming my parents. Well, why didn't her parents? First of all, they didn't know. But
Right.
you sat through the meeting that they didn't get to sit through, and you okayed it. So let's take our responsibility. Okay.
Yes.
That's number one. So what kind of mom wants to hear that news and to find out you didn't know? You know, who wants to hear that? And then because she was feeling attacked in the process of me trying to explain it, I had to take a step back and say, let me stop trying to fix people's perspectives, and let me just tell her, I'm not blaming you. Because they started to defend themselves because they were feeling attacked, because I am a very no.
Right.
I'm a very, cutthroat person sometimes. Not that I try to be, but it's just I'm all about righteousness, and sometimes that can come off wrong. And so for them, they're the same way. So we're just alike in a lot of different ways. I have to admit that, and so I had to see that, number one. Number two, I had to stop trying to change their perspectives and say, okay, maybe they're feeling attacked, and maybe that's why I'm starting to feel attacked. Okay, let me approach this differently. So I changed my approach. That was the third thing. I started coming to them and saying, I'm not blaming you. Because then I started to feel like they were blaming me. And I said, how can I combat this? Hey, if I'm feeling like you're blaming me, maybe you're feeling like that too. Hey, I'm not blaming you. I'm not blaming you. No one is to take the blame here except for that man and those people who sat in that meeting and was privy and participated in breaking the law with him. They need to take their responsibility.
You're right. And I think sometimes, because I'm a mom, okay, and I pride myself on knowing what's going on in my kids' lives, okay? So I do think that some people, and I'm not saying all of them, I'm not going to give them a pass, but I do think some of them, especially the women, the moms, were probably thinking to themselves, there's no way I wouldn't have known what was going on in my child's life. There's no way I wouldn't have been able to see that she was being different and things like that. But at the end of the day, people have to understand when you have been groomed. Like predators take time to groom you so that you don't seem different, so that you're still trucking along your everyday life as normal. And then this being your pastor, there's already this level of trust. So I can totally understand how your parents didn't see what was going on. And what we're not going to do today, we're not going to parent blame because somebody else, like you're still putting the responsibility, like you said, on somebody else. Put the responsibility on the grown man sitting at the altar that y'all are shouting y'all hallelujahs, flashing your Bibles at. That's the person that you get to put the responsibility on. We're not going to put it on a child. We're not going to put it on a child that was groomed, and we are not going to put it on the parent. We're not going to do that. Not at all. Yeah. So is Jireh now? Because you took 6 years to find your voice, to admit some hard truths of things that had happened to you. And just, did you ever have guilt of like, oh my God, I should have known this or I should have known that? Did you ever feel any type of guilt for what had happened? And if so, how did you work through that?
I didn't feel guilt for not knowing. I felt shame at first and then anger for looking back and seeing how crazy he spoke to people. Like, girl, I used to pray like, Lord, let him text me now.
Right.
So I had to
your mind,
because you anyone would be lying. Anyone would be lying. And that I think that's my superpower. Like I'm not gonna lie about it. I'm gonna speak what folks is afraid to speak. And to me, anyone would be lying if they said that they didn't have those moments to where they're like, I wish you would come across me now.
Mm,
So
exactly.
that was hard for me. That was very
Okay.
difficult for me to look back and see how crazy he talked to me and how much control he had over me to where anyone else, I'll put it to you like this, even at that time, if anyone else had have approached me the way he did, oh, we would have been fighting. You
Right.
wouldn't have been able to step to me like that. I was always strong.
But
I
see,
just,
nobody else groomed you.
exactly. No one else groomed me. No one else tore me down. No one else manipulated me. No
Mhm.
one else did that. He did that. And he put me in this box.
Yep.
And I would always poke out. I would always poke out. And that's what he couldn't stand. And that's why he started manipulating others, going
Yeah,
to them and telling them negative things about me so that they would turn deaf ears when I spoke.
exactly. Exactly. So you found your strength, you found your voice. You're now using your voice to bring awareness. I want you to talk to that young girl out there, talk to that mother out there. What can a mother daughter relationship, what can a mother daughter do to build that relationship that they might feel has fallen on rocky times? Or especially some of these teenagers out here, they think that their mother knows nothing about life and what they're experiencing. But what do you want to say to these young girls and their moms about cultivating a, a ball of trust so that your daughter will feel comfortable coming to you, even when it's a very uncomfortable situation?
Be honest.
Mm,
I would say be honest. Listen. And if you don't know how to communicate effectively, take some classes, or at the
mhm,
very least, get some therapy so that they can give you different tools to utilize in that relationship. If you're serious about really wanting to work it out with your daughter, and if your daughter's serious about wanting to work it out with you, you have to put in the work. You can't just say, I'm the mom, I know best, or my mom don't know nothing. Like you have to put in the work with that. You have to say, hey, what am I doing? Obviously, the way I'm going about this, I keep running up against a wall. That's what I had to do with God just a few days ago. I keep trying to get my point across, and I keep failing. I keep failing. I keep hitting a wall. I keep hitting a wall, and now I'm frustrated. Now I'm wearing it. Now I'm heavy. They're still not listening. And God says, stop trying to change them.
mm,
Change
mm.
you.
Yes.
And that's so cliche. So I'm gonna break that down, right? It's not just change you, right? It's change your approach. So instead of trying to change them, change your
Hmm.
approach. Stop focusing, change your focus. Stop focusing on trying to change their perspective and the way that they view it, and start focusing on how can I help you? Because you're feeling attacked and I'm feeling attacked. But if I want you to stop attacking me,
Hmm.
maybe I gotta stop making you feel attacked as well, or stop attacking you if that's what I'm doing. So changing my approach and stop attacking you. So I would have to say, humble yourself. Like, stop thinking that you're the one that's right in the situation,
Right.
and start asking God, how can I minister to that person instead of always wanting to fulfill my need? Instead of
Mhm.
always wanting them to minister to me, instead of always wanting them to hear me, instead of always wanting them to understand me, maybe I need to try to understand them. And if both parties are doing that, there's not going to be any stone left unturned, and there's not going to be any voids that's not filled within
Yeah,
that relationship.
absolutely. Because if we're only giving our children our perspective, then they don't learn how to use their voice, because now we're saying like, well, it's because I said so. And I'm guilty of that. I've said that a whole lot to my children. But when we take the time to really listen, acknowledge what this child is feeling, even if you don't understand it, just acknowledge, validate, okay, I understand you're feeling like this. Maybe you as a parent have to step away so that then you can come back and say, like, hey, now I understand. Let's talk about this. Okay.
Yeah.
So before we wrap up, I just want to, one, again, congratulate where you are. But just in these last couple of minutes, how has this totally changed or enhanced you? Because I always tell people, good or bad, happy or sad, everything that we experience is part of our development. It helps, we really experience things to help others. So how has this changed the woman that Jireh is today? Give us about 30 or 40 seconds of it.
I am extremely strong. If you ask me to use one word to describe myself, I would say resilient, strong. I don't play games. I don't allow people to tell me things that I know is a lie. I might not always fight it now, you know, and I'm always going to continue to grow, but I'm just not going to walk away. And I'm not going to wear the coat of someone else's problem. I'm
Right.
just not. You're not going to come dump your issue on me and then narcissistically gaslight me. I don't allow these types of behaviors around me, and nor do I wear it as if it's my, I'm not going to internalize someone else's narcissistic issues or someone
Right.
else's issues in general, whether it's a narcissistic or not. I'm just not. I'm not going to wear it. I'm not going to internalize it. And I'm extremely strong. I do not play games. And as strong as I am graceful. And if
Mhm.
I'm not, we're still working on it.
Yeah, we're all a work in progress all the time.
Yeah,
Yes.
we're working on it. We're working on it. But I am very loving. I can definitely say I'm so glad I went through all of the hurt because
Wow.
I love so hard. I love so freaking hard.
Yeah.
I don't, oh my God, I love to love people. I really do. I'm gonna clean you up when you need it, but I love people, man. And people, and I love the fact that I'm a safe place for people.
For
That,
people.
that's
Beautiful.
everything. I'm a safe
Beautiful.
place for people.
Yes,
So,
because we need that. We need
yeah.
that. And I just, I really honor where you are in life. I honor that you are using your voice. I honor that you are bringing awareness to the fact that there are behaviors that are hiding, bad behaviors that are hiding in the church. And those who know about it are allowing these behaviors to thrive. So thank you for peeling back that onion so that you can use your voice in such a powerful way. Continue to shine bright, continue to mentor these young girls, and just continue to be the best daughter of God that Jireh can be. I honor you, my sister. Thank you. Thank you for being
Thank
on
you
it.
so much. Thank you so much. Thank you
You're
so
so
much.
welcome. Whew, that was a lot. That was a lot to unpack. That was a lot to hear for some people. But I really hope you walked away with something, even if it's a way to build the communication between you and your daughter. If maybe you even learn how to speak up for those who feel voiceless. But Jireh, thank you again for joining. I appreciate all of you for jumping on and watching and being a part of this conversation. I will see you guys next week. We're going to be talking to Sherelle Edie about just physically always going, physically being on the go all the time, but feeling mentally drained. And we're going to talk to Sherelle Edie as well as Dr. Danielle Beal on how we can take care of our mental health when so much is going on. So I'll see you guys next week. Thanks for joining She Is Shenomenal.